thank you very much. I frequently end up with the nice task to do the final presentation. But to reassure you, after that I'm re-invited again, so I'll make it very lively. And of course, this is a community with a high tendency. You're used to working long hours, so I think we'll get there. 9 years of experience in venturing, incubation in Philips. And 9 years is about 3 cycles, because the corporate patience is 3 years. So we have indeed had a number of phases there. Actually, this is where I live and work. So I'll get back to why this looks so nice, and I'll tell you a first secret: Philips doesn't own this anymore. One thing that's very important, of course, is to have the right portfolio. So let's see how you get to the right portfolio. Indeed, you start with trends in the world. And if you look at the trends, aging populations, emerging markets, empowered consumers, and climate change, there's one thing for sure that you know on my first slide. The next TV of Philips is not going to resolve any of these issues. So, on slide 1, we know we need partnerships. It is very clear that the first issue, the aging populations or chronic diseases, cannot be resolved by money. We simply do not have enough people to take care of those people that are either old or ill. So we need to come to unique solutions, which are not TVs, that will cure those problems. Empowered consumers, I was giving a presentation for British Gas, and they were explaining their problems. And one of their problems was that they couldn't get the gas and electricity on one paper bill. So I thought, oh my God, how am I going to explain venturing to these people? So I took an iPad and I put on farm film. So I said, who knows what this is? Well, there was some that knew from their children as well. This is Zynga. And Zynga is a company that does $460 million turnover, 90% of which is people buying little tractors, which they don't get. It's basically just giving away money. Actually, that is the empowered consumer. This is a totally new area that we are in. I said, I give you gas, you give me money, or I give you TV, you give me money, and then you look at Zynga. This is what is really changing in the world. So, we know portfolio management, strategic filter, and you have to have a good business case. Yeah, so this is how Philips is doing this. This is a slide from the corporate presentation, and it does make sense. But well, I mean, at that high level, you can't be wrong. One thing, if you do a little bit more sophisticated portfolio management, you know that you need to add something, which is the right to win, which is a technology position or your market position. So how do we deal with that? Well, one thing that you need to do is actually change the way you innovate. I started in research, worked there for 14 years, and it used to be a very formal, highly technical organization. But the research has changed. These are the experience labs that we have in Philips Research. And these are labs. These are not demo centers. We look how people use our products. There's cameras on top. There's all kinds of things. So we actually have 3. We have a home lab, a shop lab, and a care lab. Could you do the video, please? Just click the middle nice figure. So this will explain you a bit what we do in the labs.
Located at our high-tech campus facility in Eindhoven, the Netherlands, the Experience Lab recreates authentic environments in which real users, not our own people, interact with new concepts. These experiences are observed and filmed so that we can study at length how this interaction takes place and pinpoint areas where there is room for improvement. The participants are also asked to provide their opinions on what they like and what they don't. Taking the shop lab as an example, It allows us to gather valuable input from shop owners, interior designers, and shoppers. We try out ideas like color cubes, a smart and simple way of enhancing merchandise in a retail environment. An inbuilt camera detects the main color of an item placed inside the cube, and integrated lighting that automatically takes on a complementary color. In this way, you always have the optimum environment for any accessory, like a bag or shoe. A spotlight of white light around the product ensures it is still visible against the color background. Another area being tested is flexible atmosphere creation. Research has shown that some retail outlets change their interiors as often as once a month. We propose a system that allows this to take place as often as required with the utmost of ease. Color lighting can be copied from one location to another. Turning the pages of the special flipbook allows entire lighting scenarios to be activated. There are also other ingenious touches, such as a mannequin with integrated sensors that takes its own specific lighting with it when moved. In the shop lab, as in the rest of the Experience Lab, we can carefully measure the impact of new ideas like the color cubes and flexible atmosphere creation. The feedback generated is used to further refine and develop the concepts in line with end-user expectations. This is entirely in keeping with our aim of making research less technology-focused, and also significantly increases the chances of improving the innovation hit rate. Philips Research. Innovation with a human touch.
Okay. So this is an example. These are not real products, but some of it is close to products, some of it is in ventures. So this is the way how you get consumer insights as a basis. Another example is on the left-hand side. Yesterday I found out you have those days here too in California. I hate waking up on dark winter mornings. You feel so tired, and it's so different than in summer. And actually, if you look at a clinician, he will say, well, if I would increase the light levels 30 minutes before you need to wake up, it is shown that you will really be much more alert and alive. I considered showing you a little movie. There's the most northern town of the world. We have distributed the solution, which is the wake-up light. They have actually 15 days with no light at all. So we want to see if these people become more friendly and lively people. You can actually follow that on the web if you want. But what you see is you can create a product that is really a nice product and really helps you wake up in a much better way. So these are not things, so we had to have a clinician in a consumer product. Yeah, so a nice way, there's a great movie, Philips Beats the Sun. On YouTube, it shows you how we let a rooster crow at 3 o'clock in the morning. We do this not just in the Western world. We also do this in emerging markets. And there's a whole story to be told about it, but I will not do that here. But there's many things that you can do, and actually all these markets have their unique insights for the customer. If you look at these two things, the insight is pretty simple. I want to drink beer like in the pub, and I want to drink coffee like in the restaurant with a little layer of foam. Now, Philips is not in beer, and Philips is not in coffee. So we found two friends, InBev and Sarah Lee, and we worked on a machine. Actually, the real story is that Sarah Lee was doing that in China, and they couldn't get it. So they came to Philips. And actually, it was really tough to make the right coffee. It was so tough that they actually hired a group that's a spin-out of Philips, a mathematical group, and they built a mathematical model in which the coffee people could do the coffee things and the Philips people could do the Philips things. And that ended up in this product, the Senseo coffee maker. And actually, it's quite successful, at least in the Dutch market. At one point in time, I had a meeting with all the big retailers, like Walmart, And I said, well, if we have this insight, and we have coffee pads and a coffee maker, why are they about 500 meters away from each other? And how should the customer know that he needs this coffee pad with this coffee maker? So if you don't join into our insights, then at the end of the chain, everything fails. In the Netherlands, actually, the impact was so big that more coffee, less coffee was sold for a higher price. So the kilos went down and the euros went up due to this piece of instrument. And it was clever enough so that there have been many successors of this, but they all fail. Because there is a control point in if you work together and you really have a somewhat advanced technical solution, you really create a market not just for a short, but also for a long time. Actually, what I try to depict that, we have two funnels. One makes coffee and the other one makes coffee makers. And you see that if you share in the beginning, you have 2 times the number of ideas. So that is a concept of open innovation, in this case applied to 2 large companies. If you do it with a university, they don't have a chimney. Eh? You just get something in the beginning. So it is really something that in more or less traditional innovation creates a success. I say more or less because also here you have a leap of faith. Because the leap of faith, for example, with the coffee maker was, will the consumer buy this coffee pad, which is definitely more expensive than buying coffee? And they did. Like iTunes, first day, 1 million sold. Yeah, that was a big leap of faith too. Okay, this is the high-tech campus. On the top you see the day in 2001 that we took out the sign. We took out the gates. You can just go on. And 2 months ago we sold everything. It's no longer Philips owned. So from when I started, I come at the gate and the guard would say, Dr. Van Ommen enters 9:05. I was late that morning. I now drive in, no guards, I just park, and I meet 90 companies, 8,000 people, 50 nationalities, and the long building in the middle is the restaurant. There's no restaurants anywhere else. I gave this presentation once in Germany, and there was a gentleman that asked me if everybody had to sign a non-disclosure. I said, no, it's even worse. We have notepads on the tables of the restaurant, so people share. You see, there's a whole range of companies. This is also open innovation, and actually what we have opened up also is our technological facilities. So there's a whole building of small companies in here. So we have a lot of startups that work here. Okay, so what have we learned? If we need a technology or a channel, we have open innovation. So actually, the right to win is no longer so important as it used to be. But I have another example. I really love this one. We have made a defibrillator to be used in the home, which means no time to read the manual, easy to use, specifically designed for use at home. It's a real lifesaver, and it makes a difference. It talks to you. Move the pad up. Yes, correct. Next one. Does it make sense? Look at the left-hand side. 80% of the cardiac arrests occurs at home. Brain death and permanent death starts to occur in 4 to 6 minutes. 10 minutes, you're gone. Only 5% survives. We don't sell it at home. We sell it everywhere. You'll find it in the hotel, you'll find it in the street, you'll find it in cruise ships. We don't sell it in homes. Why not? Disruptiveness. Because the person lying on the floor is somebody that is very close to you. So although this is a fantastic product, it is too disruptive for somebody to buy it for in his home. I mean, if you have the chance of this, the 2,000 euro will not matter. But it is the other person that needs to do it. So we have to realize that if we make something that is really disruptive, You have to realize if people can cope with this disruptiveness. So, disruptiveness is the new element in portfolio management. And disruptiveness is common across this room. That is what everybody in this room does. So how did we deal with that? This is where we get to different types of innovation, which we call the granularity of innovation. Doblin told us about their 10 types of innovation. Actually, they became 106 types of innovation. Well, actually, what we did is we defined two axes. One axis is the market life cycle that you're targeting. And the other axis is the disruptiveness to the consumer. Simply defined as new to the world, a new adjacent category, a new in the category, or simply an improved product. And that creates granularity in a 4x4 matrix. Oops, every consultant will tell you no more than 2x2, Fred. But I'm not a consultant, so I work for Philips. I made this thing. And actually my boss, the CTO of Philips, had to go to the top 50 meeting in Dubai. And he said, hey Fred, where are my slides? I said, Rick, unfortunately no slides. I just gave him this and a bunch of pictures of products. And then people really had to think about their products. And that became a great success. So that is how I solved my 4x4 matrix within Philips. And fortunately, there are areas like an improved product in an emerging market. That doesn't make a lot of sense, and also at the bottom. Yep. So basically, there's something on the diagonal. So here, you can actually plot all kinds of innovation. Now, the first thing, and this is the thing that you need to take away. You can forget anything else, but this you need to take away. On the left-hand side, we are working on an existing category, and we do product creation. On the right-hand side, we create a new category. Something people don't understand, don't know, we create new business. And the way you treat those kinds of innovation has to be totally different. So one example of that is if you look at Blue Ocean, and you look at the example of Cirque du Soleil. Cirque du Soleil is not a competitor for traditional circuses. Because what you see is they're much more expensive, they don't have star performers, animals, aisle concessions, multiple show arenas. They do have thrills and fun, but they also have themes, refined watching environments, multiple production, and artistic music and dance. Actually, if you look at the unique venue, O is in the Bellagio in Las Vegas. I've seen it. It's great. I think they spent, I don't know how many, $20 million on the water stuff and the stage coming up and down. Has nothing to do with a circus. This is disruptive innovation. I remember these weird people in strange costumes running through the street. But they created a new market. And that's what you do on the right-hand side of the 4x4. Now, Corina, my colleague, has come with translating this in the story of life. We all know Daddy. Daddy brings the salary home, and we live from Daddy. So that's fine. But then we have emerging, new to the world babies. Babies are cute. Every company likes to have a few nice babies. They're not so expensive. You have it's a 4x4 and not a 3x3, because I'm always worried about the category of the elderly. The elderly you need to take care of at some point in time. And if we think about products that are in markets that decline, and where you can only make minimal improvements, the only thing that you can do is reduce cost. So you should outsource or spin out. And then we have the worst part of the whole thing. Teenagers, adolescents. They look like adults, but they want to do everything different. We hate them. Why can't they just be mature people? unfortunately, that is our future. And actually, the whole thing is characterized just in one word. How do you deal with adolescents? Because adolescents are the things that will bring the future, but they're really difficult to handle. So let's look at right-hand side, left-hand side, some differences. I have two views. One view is from let's say, if we take a coffee maker, a cappuccino. So we made an espresso machine. This was a Philips espresso machine that we bought. Later on, we bought a whole company to do that. We didn't have it. But the customer, he doesn't care whether we didn't have it. They know what cappuccino, espresso machines are. So actually what you do is you recombine existing resources. You work in an existing ecosystem. It's a market share battle. You know what the customer insights are. You leverage your existing sales channels. Business models are known. You focus on execution. It's short and mid-term. Existing organization. Not a lot of new things. Just hard work, linear innovation. On the right-hand side, you generate new opportunities. What I've put, this is a motion sensor, and actually it's called Direct Live. And you have on your PC a website, and if you work out, it tells you whether you did right. In the beginning, it's really dangerous. Same boss, same Mr. Rick. He hadn't moved enough, and actually we had a meeting on the 14th floor in the headquarters, and he made me also walk 14 floors because he hadn't reached his quota yet. So it does stimulate people. Now that motion sensor is totally irrelevant. It is the coaching that is the product. Yeah, and the coaching be better stimulating. So you generate new opportunities, you have a new ecosystem. We have to cross Moore's chasm. In this case, we started in the US with companies. Michael Dell, for his whole executive team, 700 people or so, bought this. He said, I want that. That's because, but that's more a B2B model. And we wanted to go to the consumer. So the crossing the chasm is a big one, going from a professional B2B to a B2C market. Changing customer behavior. Yeah, the idiot walked 14 floors of stairs. Building new channels. I mean, how are we as a consumer business going to sell, well, other than Michael Dell, to other people? So it's really, you can't just put it into your sales force. New business models, learning and iterative, mid and long term, and new capabilities. You better know what coaching in healthcare does and in well-being. There is one other way of looking at it, which is a bit fashionable. Causation, effectuation. If you look, the most important words are known on the left-hand side and unknowable on the right-hand side. So if you look, you search and select a good opportunity on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, you create and transform. So you do a linear process with milestones, with budgets, with timelines on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, you do circles. You explore and explore again and make mistakes. So it's very dangerous to say, we'll speed up. Speed up in a big company means linear. Speed up for an entrepreneur means faster circles. So there's a danger in using this kind of terminology in corporates. So you have a predictable market. On the right-hand side, the market cannot be defined. Can you imagine you're a sales guy and I come to you with this product? What will happen is, well, if you buy 5 TVs, I'll give you this for free. I've actually had that in the time I managed the MRI business. They were giving away something that the customer thought was of great value than the MRI at some point in time. So you have a finite set of possibilities. I mean, TV, what more can you change on a TV? On the right-hand side, you can transform possibilities into opportunities. What is really interesting is surprises are bad. top management in corporates don't like surprises. Whereas we have to learn them. Surprises are embraced. That's the way you find new opportunities. So you can see there's a whole characterization of this left and right-hand side which really forces you to work differently on both sides. Actually showing here, going from the top, there you really have a radical change for the customer. Whereas if you're at the bottom, next TV, nothing new. So actually that is a big step that we need to make. So a very good question to ask is, does the customer need to change their behavior? If the answer is yes, you're on the right-hand side. If they don't understand you're on the right-hand side, you don't give it to the sales organization. You do it yourself. Actually, there's more than two areas. On the top right, you see the new business development with a breakaway and an adjacent area. On the left-hand side, you see also a few things. The grow and defend market share is clear. The defend market share and outsourcing is clear at the bottom. Growth coming from the bottom. In the Boston Consulting Group overview of innovation, there was a huge percentage spent on small innovations. That should be translated in emerging markets. Because emerging markets are growth markets in existing products. So actually, you don't just go diagonally down, you can actually go up. And there's a few more areas. This technology push is, for example, we invent a totally new imaging technology. We actually did. But to a doctor, it's an imaging modality. Yep. So you have something that is emerging, but it's simply another thing in the category. So you see, you have all kinds of different innovation, and you should actually treat them all different, with different metrics, with different management styles. Yeah? And if you're really clever, you translate your strategy into how you want to play in all of those areas. So this is a map of Philips products on this thing. We've worked with DSM. We donated them the 4x4. And they started this way, like my boss started in Dubai also this way. To start to understand where your products are and what the goal is of the products. Okay, now how to manage different flavors of innovation. This is the large company syndrome. They don't understand the big gap to the machine gun. They're used to swords. So, don't bother me. Actually, this is even a better one. I've sent it to all the CFOs in Philips. It's really well known that IT, finance, and sales are the biggest dangers in a corporate for ventures. I've had some discussions with the CFOs that they should understand that you should manage ventures on cost and not on EBIT. It's the worst thing you can do, early ventures on EBIT, because they'll make sales. They'll make so much sales that no way they can converge anymore. They have so many different customer requirements, they don't know where to go anymore. Typical failure mode. As long as they believe cost is the way to manage, just fine. Okay, why is it so difficult to manage teenagers? Or some reasons why it's so hard for business units to deal with ventures. There's the unknowable coming back. The unknowable means that you're not supposed to know what is happening, so you will have to experiment. There, it's very important not to give them too much money. What we typically see, babies, cute baby. Oh, you're going to, for 1 million and it will be 100 million sales? I give you 2 million. Will it be 200 million sales? So actually, they give me the 2 million. Now we get obese babies. Very unhealthy. Yeah, so actually the story goes on. So they grow up and they become adolescent. And then comes to daddy and says, I need 6 million. No, you only get 3. So you slow down the venture and you get anorexic teenagers. Again, life-threatening. It happens. It happens all the time. And we see them losing their momentum because of that. If you look at the time horizon, it is beyond the 3-year company patience in general. There's not a lot of ventures that do it quicker. We need to deal with the chasm. And I'll go to the little picture of it. Many times the chasm is described as above, simply a hiccup in a curve. But that's absolutely untrue. Also, Moore realized that the chasm is caused because you start with a market of visionaries. And actually, you need to explore everything to be able to cross the chasm. Not just the product, but also the way you sell. How do you communicate to the customer? Then if you've done that, you should have a bowling alley, meaning product number 1, business model number 1, which will expand in this direction. Then I get product number 2, business model number 2, and 3 in the other direction. So actually, that growth curve is not going by itself. It's actually a composition of different variations on the same theme. So basically, a platform. That is the way you cross the chasm. Not by sheer luck or pumping in more money, as we've seen. That doesn't help. It just flows away. Out of the scope thinking is required. The first market is generally something you need to find because it doesn't exist, and sometimes it is something that you even don't follow up on. The example I gave, the professional healthcare stuff with the motion detector, is not the final market. Potential sources of conflict of interest. The sales organization sees you coming with this new thing, and are you going to talk to my customer? You're not. Are you crazy? You don't even know if this works. So that's a for sure conflict of interest. Cross-BU synergies. Actually, if you look at these ventures, generally they don't do what is in the scope of the BU. They do more. How to deal with that? Really a problem. You don't have, if you don't have a dedicated team, they're used in a business unit, they're used to having a marketing guy, an R&D guy, all the functions. A venture team are 3 people that do everything, cleaning the toilets if necessary. So you need a totally different approach. You have to have domain knowledge. If you enter in a new area and you have no clue what the business models are in that area are, if you don't hire somebody, just stop. It will not work. And finally, skipping stages. We just put in more money and we think, now we'll go up to the curve. No, does not work. My colleague discussed this yesterday. Living colors, basically a way of scene setting. The failure was that we worked 4 years on the concept, and then the sales organization said, yeah, but we'll give it to all the customers. So we had the €2 lamp and the €140 lamp next to each other, and a person in the shop that had no clue what the €440 was doing. So that was not how it worked. It took thereby a long time, but there's still €140. So that's a good thing. And finally, initially, we forgot to do the other bowling pins. Now we have a whole range of lamps so you can illuminate the whole room. Yeah? So typical failure modes in corporates. There was a question about how long do you manage, coach a venture. We use the 4x4 matrix. The way my boss had to do it. You have to think about what kind of activity is this. We look at strategic alignment, because there's a risk in the first market that can be different. You can go astray and it doesn't fit in the strategy. You have to drive the reallocation of resources. Avoid survival of the fattest. I have this huge BU, so I get all this R&D money. Well, that will not give you a lot of new business. It will give you a whole range of shavers. So many you can't count them. You drive you create environments to allow freedom to operate. And the best example I have there is we have a person that we hired from the outside, and we do that quite a lot actually for the venture. It's a very small venture, 3 people. They count white blood cells at home. And they have a very nice solution. And it means that you don't go for nothing to the hospital to have a chemo, which you can't have, and then the hospital has a lot of expenses, so there's a lot of clever things in there. This guy was presenting to the board of management, and the first reaction was, does this guy work for Philips? And it's both ways. He said he would not work for Philips if he would not be in one of the incubators, because the incubator protects him from a lot of the corporate environment. One language and approach for venturing, Bell Mason is part of that. One transparent funnel and portfolio of new business activities. We actually have one of all, so basically all business development boards see all of those things. We have developed a balanced scorecard for ventures with totally different KPIs per stage. This was a discussion with one of the CFOs, actually now the CFO of our company. He was pestering the incubator for that, so the incubator made it, and then we said, okay, can I now see it for the sector ventures? Oops. Okay, business development board afternoon. We have cornerstone funds. We started, the first round was very long-term technology incubation. At some point in time we said, well, that's taking too long, and we've spun them out into a prime fund. And we have recently established for healthcare a fund which we scaled them. So there we have invested, and we will grow some ventures in more or less the strategic direction of Philips. Okay, more applications of this 4x4 thing. The left-hand side is done in business units. The right-hand side can be in the sector, in incubators, or in research. M&A and partnering. If you think about it, the Breakaway, you take stakes in early stage ventures, or you acquire IP. Adjacencies, you go typically somewhat later stage ventures. It can be either a product or a technology that you put with what you have. At the roadmap part, you buy companies. And at the bottom, you go the other way around. You move it outside. Now, one of the failure modes that we at least have tried is taking this 20 people adjacency venture and going for the synergies in the roadmap way. So one of the problems that HR had is that what was the job of these people? It took them 18 months because they were doing all kinds of things. There was one guy, he said, I had a meeting with 10 Philips people because I did all their 10 jobs. And actually the end result was that everybody was scaled in very low because they did every job, they just did marginally. So that is not the way you do it. You do that if you have a 1 billion type of acquisition. I talked about this. The one thing I want to show is the left-hand side is the sector management team, and the sector CEO is the chairman of this innovation board. The right-hand side is much more a Philips board. Although it is chaired by the sector CEO, you have the sector management team, but on call. So if there's a topic that's within one of their arenas, they have to go. From Philips, you have the strategist. You have my boss, responsible for innovation and markets, M&A, incubator, and my colleague is in all three of those. And actually, they integrally manage this amount. And they do not manage operationally, they manage strategically. Okay, what are the takeaways? Profitable growth will require different flavors in innovation. Manage different things differently. The benefit to the customer is theoretical, the resistance to change is real life. And that's what you need to deal with. It's all about experiment, iterative learning, fail fast and cheap. Our approach has definitely done that in a good way. Prototype the whole venture, not only the product. I explained the problems that you have in the sales channel. You cannot do it alone. Co-creation and partnering is key. There's no substitute for experience or domain knowledge. Hire those outside people, because you're doing something that is not in your company. To cross the chasm, you need a stepping stone. First stepping stone, test the whole thing, then go to the whole market. The biggest challenge is the business model, not the technology. Getting to Plan B, very good book. Plan A never works. They could have also called it. It's really a fact of life. It's all about business models, not about technologies. And you will never get adults if you don't create freedom to operate, protection, runway to start for babies and teenagers. Thank you. Yes, of course.
Questions?
Are there teenagers in the room? Nobody has.
I think they want to. Oh, you have one? Questions?
No, he wouldn't dare.
I think they want their cocktails.
I think so too.
I think so.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, so sorry.
So, I think this is a general question. Philips has gone through a lot of changes in the last 15 years. When I look at your entire innovation model and the structure that you have, it appears that it's too complicated, and I was wondering, does it work? And has it been a problem actually for the challenges that you have had in the last decade and a half? I'm sorry.
1 year ago, I was at Cisco, and they said actually the same. Okay. They proposed I would look at their video conferencing system instead, but I said we already have that, so maybe you should hear the story. Their model is very simple. They simply have one business unit, and they do all the new business in there. And I said, okay, so now you have 100 million of turnover, and now how do you move it to the other business unit, where it belongs? And then they asked me, can I please have a copy of your presentation? The difference is early involvement, buy-in of the management team of the sector. Yeah, so automatically, the first session in healthcare was, all the management team was there, and they were supposed to explain what these ventures were doing. Now, there was one poor girl that just got a venture transferred. That venture started as TV at the hospital bed. And then they asked, can we see the medical images on there? And can we plan the meals and the nurse? And it became a healthcare product. So it had just moved over. And she had to explain what the value was for healthcare. And what she did is she said, okay, as healthcare, we never had a contact to the patient. And in the US, it's used to train the patient for what they should do after they leave the hospital. So it was actually, that is a good example of some strategic importance. So you see that. So what is good about the model is involvement. It works for 3 years. Of course, everybody has proposed one time to merge the two. but our president and CEO at that point in time said, don't you dare proposing that again. So that was very clear. So that helped. In principle, it helps, because if we wouldn't have had it, I'm pretty sure that all the budgets would have gone. You can't touch that budget. You need to go, not the sector CEO even, he needs to go to the board of management. They have to agree that he can touch the budget. So nobody even dares to do that. Yeah, so there is a good amount of protection. It is very good education of your top management. Because Corina started to train the top management and then down. The people below know. The people at the top that make the decisions don't. So they have a regular experience per quarter looking at the ventures. So I think maybe it's complex, maybe it's Dutch, but it does work. Cocktails?